I'm a college graduate with honors, and yet somehow I ended up sleeping on the living room floor of the house I grew up in, not because I failed, but because my parents gave my old bedroom to my younger brother. You can just sleep on the floor, they said, like I was some temporary guest in my own life. I didn't argue. I didn't make a scene. Instead, I started planning, quietly, strategically. And when I finally moved out, I didn't just leave the house. I bought the one next door. They never saw it coming. If you've ever come home hoping for comfort and found quiet betrayal instead, if your own family ever made you feel like a stranger under your childhood roof, then stick around. Because this isn't just a story. It's a reckoning. My name is Ethan. I'm 29, a Berkeley architecture graduate with honors, and for a while, I was the pride of my family. I had a future mapped out in careful lines and measured ambition, a competitive internship at a top-tier design firm, licensure before I hit 30, maybe even my boutique agency one day. Everything was on track. But then the recession hit. Like dominoes, every opportunity I chased toppled over. Firms froze hiring, city projects dried up, my savings dwindled, and eventually, I was back in my childhood home in Rochester, New York. I told myself it was temporary, just a place to regroup while I applied for jobs, built connections, and got back on my feet. At first, my parents, Margaret and Henry, seemed happy to have me home. Mom would pack me sandwiches before interviews, and Dad would redline my resumes like he was grading college essays again. The house wasn't grand, but it was familiar. Lemon-scented wood polish on Saturdays, the stairs that always creaked near the top, and the shelf in my room still lined with trophies, design books, and little wooden models I'd made in studio all-nighters. My younger brother, Noah, was in his final year of high school. Loud, impulsive, always glued to his phone, Noah had a way of filling every room he walked into. But even with his chaos, it felt good to fall back into the rhythm of being the big brother again. One night, as we played video games in my old room, he asked, "Do you think I got a shot at state?" "With your grades?" I said without hesitation. "Absolutely, no doubt." That was always the thing. I believed in him. I always had. During those early weeks, I built structure into my days. Mornings spent on job applications, afternoons on chores. I folded laundry, mowed the lawn, and even helped repair the sagging deck out back. I cooked dinner a few times a week, Dad's favorite chili, Mom's shepherd's pie, and each month I handed over $300, 0 cents, toward bills and groceries. It wasn't much, but it was what I had. I didn't expect praise, just space, just time. But that was before things shifted. Before the warm welcomes turned cool. Before the small comments started piling up, the ones you pretend not to hear at first. Before I realized I hadn't come home to be embraced, I'd come back to a house that no longer had a place for me. Not in the room I grew up in. Not at the table. And soon, not even on the floor. Sometimes, betrayal doesn't come with screaming matches or slam doors. Sometimes, it whispers. It seeps in slowly, through casual words said over roast chicken and laundry baskets, in the way people stop seeing you even when you're standing right in front of them. It started with dinner. Mom announced that Noah, my younger brother, their golden boy, had been accepted into an elite academic prep program. She was glowing, practically bouncing in her seat. "This will boost his college apps," she said, as she passed him another helping. Dad glanced at me, then muttered, "Ethan was in honors too." Mom waved it off with a polite smile. "Yes, but things are different now. The pressure's way more intense these days." Noah caught my eye. His smile faltered just a little. But I let it go. I didn't want to steal his moment. I had bigger things to focus on anyway, like the upcoming interview I had with Hartman Design Group, a firm known for sustainable commercial architecture. "I've got an interview next Wednesday," I said casually, hoping to redirect the conversation, to remind them I was still moving forward. "That's nice, dear," Mom replied, eyes still fixed on Noah. "So what's this project you'll be doing, sweetie?" I smiled, said nothing. A few days later I had that interview, and it was everything I hoped for. They loved my portfolio, the conversation felt effortless. "We'll be in touch within 2 weeks," Marissa Hartman herself said, shaking my hand with genuine warmth. Hope bloomed inside me like the first warm day after a brutal winter. That night, I cooked Dad's favorite chili from scratch, fresh herbs, hand-cut vegetables, even homemade cornbread on the side. For a little while it felt like we were a family again. Dad even raised his glass to toast my future with Hartman. Noah gave me a high five. Had I known that would be the last time I felt seen in that house, I might have lingered a little longer at the table. 2 days later, I came home from a second meeting with the firm, feeling light, full of plans. I swung open the side door, expecting noise, energy, something. But the house was still. Too still. I called out nothing. Upstairs I froze. My belongings, boxes, sketchbooks, clothes, even the models I built in college were stacked in the hallway like an afterthought. My bedroom door was wide open. Inside, everything had changed. My twin bed, gone, replaced by Noah's queen-sized setup. My shelves, once filled with architecture books and blueprints, now lined with cologne bottles and sports trophies. My walls, once covered with design prints and awards, replaced by band posters and LED lights. And it wasn't just my room. It was my history erased. Behind me, Mom appeared with a laundry basket, cheerful as ever. "Oh, you're home. We moved your stuff out. Noah needed more space for his senior year." "You moved me out?" I asked, stunned. "Without telling me?" "Well, you were out all day," she said, as if that explained everything. "And you're barely ever here lately." "Where am I supposed to sleep?" "The living room floor should be fine for now," Dad chimed in from behind a staircase. "We've still got that old sleeping bag from our camping trips." "As soon as you get things figured out," Mom added, "you'll be moving on anyway." Figured out? Like I was floundering. Like months of job hunting, interviews, and part-time freelance work meant nothing. Like my struggle wasn't real enough to earn space in my own home. Noah poked his head out from the room. "Sorry, man," he said lightly. "I just needed more room for my gear, since you don't have a real job or anything." "I help out," I said, my voice tight. "I pay bills, I cook, I clean." "And we appreciate it," Mom said, like she was humoring a kid who'd just drew on the walls with crayons. "But Noah's at a critical point right now. His needs come first." I stood there, boxed out of my own life, staring at the pieces of who I used to be. I wanted to shout, to demand some sliver of respect, but nothing came out. Only 2 words. "I see." "Don't make this into a bigger deal than it is," Dad said that night, his voice firm and final, like he was closing the book on me. "Family supports each other. Right now, Noah needs the support. You can handle the floor. It's just for a little while." So I did. I rolled out that old camping sleeping bag in the living room, between the coffee table and the TV, careful not to block the walkway. The hardwood was brutal. Every inch of my spine and hips pressed directly into the floor. I counted boiler clicks and refrigerator hums to fall asleep, and when those didn't work, I listened to the muffled bass of Noah's music vibrating through the ceiling, from my old room. In the mornings, I'd wake up, stiff, sore, and silent. I'd roll up the sleeping bag and tuck it behind the couch, like hiding the evidence of my existence. Nobody asked me to, but they didn't have to. The message was clear: keep yourself out of sight. One morning, I walked into the kitchen to find Mom holding paint swatches against the wall outside what used to be my room. "We're thinking a soft blue," she said. "Noah says it helps him focus." I nodded, stirring my coffee in silence. It used to be pale gray, cool, calm, the color of tracing paper I used for early sketches. Now it was focused on blue for Noah's walls. Dinner conversations shifted entirely to Noah's life, his upcoming applications, his friends, and his future. No one asked about the follow-up I'd gotten from Hartman. No one noticed the bags under my eyes or how stiffly I sat at the table. I'd become a ghost in my own house. Present, but unseen. But that night, as I unrolled the sleeping bag once again, something inside me changed. I realized arguments wouldn't change anything. Tears? They'd just call me dramatic. They wanted me quiet? Fine. But I'd give them quiet with purpose. Over the next few weeks, I made myself invisible on purpose. I carried my toiletries in a basket and stashed them in the coat closet after each use. I kept my clothes in moving boxes stacked in the hallway. The guest closet had to stay open in case family visits. I kept doing the chores, mowing the lawn, cooking, cleaning. I didn't complain. Even when I missed the start of a virtual interview because Mom had asked me to scrub the guest bathroom before Noah's study group came over, I said nothing. I still nailed the interview. Then came the worst moment. I came home from a job fair, exhausted, only to find 4 teenage boys sprawled across the living room, my bedroom, apparently, watching a movie. Noah looked up and said, "Oh, this is my brother Ethan. He's like, between things right now." One of his friends chuckled. "Wait, do you sleep here?" I smiled. "It's temporary." Noah chimed in, casually cruel. "Yeah, until he figures out his life." I held my tongue. I kept smiling. But inside, something shifted again. Not anger, not even pain, just resolve. That same afternoon, an email arrived from Hartman Design. "We're pleased to offer you the junior architect position. Starting salary $62,000, 0 cents, with full benefits. Welcome to the team, Ethan." I stared at the screen. And this time, I didn't cry. I just exhaled. Long and deep. Because this was the beginning. But I didn't tell them. Not yet. A few days later, Aunt Patricia came by for dinner. She'd always encouraged my passion for architecture, ever since I was a kid building Lego towers taller than myself. As we were setting the table, she leaned in and asked, "Ethan, how are you holding up here?" Before I could answer, Mom jumped in with a chirpy, "Oh, he's sleeping in the living room for now. We gave his room to Noah as he needed more space." Aunt Patricia paused, her smile fading. "And your things?" she asked me directly. "Wherever they fit," I said with a tight smile. Later that night, in the kitchen, she pulled me aside. "This isn't right," she whispered. "You're their son, not a guest. Do you need help?" Her words nearly broke me. But I shook my head. "I've got a plan." And I did. That night, as I passed my parents' bedroom, I heard them talking behind a half-closed door. "I worry about Ethan," Dad said. "He seems stuck." Mom didn't hesitate. "He's not trying hard enough. He's failing at life right now." That was it. No more hoping, no more waiting, no more begging for dignity. I wasn't going to win their respect, I was going to build it. The next morning, I called a realtor. "I want to see any house for sale on my parents' street," I said. As fate would have it, the house right next door, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, had been sitting vacant for months. It needed work, a lot of it, but the bones were solid, the layout was clean, and the light poured in like possibility. Between the job at Hartman Design and a small inheritance Grandma had left me, one that my parents didn't even know about, I had just enough to make it happen. I walked through the dusty rooms with a quiet sense of wonder. Sunlight hit the hardwood floors just right. The empty fireplace whispered of future winters. The silence felt like mine. "I'm interested," I told the agent. And this time I wasn't asking permission. By the time the closing papers were signed, I'd been working at Hartman for 3 weeks. Every morning I slipped out of my parents' house before sunrise, heading into a life where people remembered my name, where I mattered. Marissa, the lead architect, pulled me aside one day and said, "You've got an eye for detail. That's rare. That's why we hired you." At Hartman I wasn't between things, I was becoming something. I opened a private bank account. Every paycheck went straight there. When my parents asked how the job hunt was going, I offered vague answers. Some leads, a couple of calls, nothing solid yet. Meanwhile, I was gutting a house, and rebuilding one too. Every lunch break became a covert mission, with contractor calls, permit requests, and material orders. Every evening, I snuck through the fence into my yard, inspecting the progress. I tore up the stained carpet, replaced it with warm walnut wood, chose every fixture, every tile, every appliance with the kind of care no one had ever shown me. And then came the pool. 3 contractors, dozens of sketches, and finally a designer who understood what I wanted. Modern, minimalist. "Quiet water feature," I said. Then I pointed to the exact spot in the yard that was visible through my parents' kitchen window. She paused, then smiled knowingly. "Making a statement?" I nodded. "It's overdue." Excavation was set for the same week I planned to leave. On my last night sleeping on the living room floor, I didn't close my eyes once. I wanted to feel everything. The sharp edge of the wood against my spine, the cold draft through the windows, the way the silence settled on me like dust. I wanted to remember, not out of bitterness, but so I'd never forget how low I'd been pushed. At 5:30 a.m., I got up quietly, packed my 2 suitcases, slipped on my shoes, and left the sleeping bag behind, neatly rolled, like a parting gift. On the kitchen counter I left a note, "Found my place. Won't be needing the floor anymore." No drama, no explanation, just truth, delivered in the same flat tone they once used to evict me from my own room. That evening, I returned, not to the house I'd left, but to the one I had claimed. My new home. I could feel them watching from behind the blinds. I didn't wave. I didn't even look. The knock came less than an hour later. Through the peephole, Mom, gripping a plate of cookies like it was a peace offering, Dad shifting uncomfortably beside her. "Ethan," she said, eyes darting past me into the house. "You bought this? Yes? Next door?" "That's right. When? How?" Dad asked, brows furrowed. "I've been working at Hartman Design for 6 weeks," I said evenly. "The job you never asked about. The success you never noticed." "You never told us," Mom said softly. "You never asked." Silence. Then Mom took a step forward. "Can we come in?" "No." She blinked. "Why not?" "Because this is my home," I said. "That kind of access, that kind of trust, has to be earned." It was the first time I had ever denied them anything, and the shock on their faces told me they felt it. Just then, the rumble of heavy machinery. I turned my head slightly. Excavation had begun, the pool right on schedule. "What's that noise?" Dad asked. "Renovations," I replied. "Already? I've owned this house for 6 weeks." Today's just the first time you noticed. They opened their mouths, but no words came. I didn't wait for an apology. I didn't need one. I closed the door, not out of anger, but with finality. Behind that door stood a career, a home, a life I had built with no help, no permission, and no apologies. I had stepped off the floor and into my future, and this time I was standing tall. I didn't buy the house to spite them. That was never the point. When the water in the new pool began to shimmer, catching the sunlight just right, reflecting directly into my parents' kitchen window, I knew they'd see it. Not just the pool, they'd see me. They'd be reminded, not of revenge, but of something they chose to forget. Their son. His effort. His quiet dignity. Every stone, every tile, every ripple in that water was a statement. I am not disposed. The first time Mom came back was a few days later. She stood on the porch, clutching a Tupperware full of cookies like it was some kind of apology. "We're having dinner this weekend," she said. "We'd love for you to join us." "I've got things to do," I said politely. "Appreciate the offer, though." I didn't slam the door, I just closed it softly. Finally, that became the new rhythm. A string of soft confrontations. Dad offered to help with a faucet install. "I've got professionals," I said. "Mom brought over curtains she thought might warm up the place." I thanked her and didn't let her pass the foyer. Their efforts weren't cruel, just late. And hollow, like they were trying to patch over cracks with pleasantries instead of owning the damage. Then came Noah. He showed up one afternoon in an oversized hoodie, hands deep in his pockets. He didn't posture, didn't smirk, he just said, "I miss you." No fanfare, no excuses, just the truth. "I want to be brothers again. Real ones." I studied him. The boy who once took my room without a second thought. He looked different now, older, humbled maybe, and I wasn't the same man who used to fold up a sleeping bag in shame every morning. "I'm not the same person anymore," I told him. "I know," he said, then smiled. "You're kind of a badass now." That made me laugh for real. That summer, I hosted my first gathering, a small housewarming party. The guest list was intentional, colleagues, a few kind neighbors, Aunt Patricia and Noah, not my parents. That boundary needed time. The party was perfect. Music, laughter, toasts. For the first time I heard my name spoken with genuine pride, not polite obligation. And then I saw him, Dad, standing in the backyard of his house, alone, watching through the fence. We made eye contact. He raised a hand, unsure. I nodded back. No invitation, no bitterness, just acknowledgement. Because by then I'd stopped needing anything more. Later that night, Noah helped me gather plates and fold up chairs. He looked around at the space I'd built and said, "I got into state, on a scholarship. That's awesome. I'm thinking about architecture," he added. "Weird?" "No," I said. "It's brave." "Mom says it's too competitive." I laughed softly, rinsing a glass. She said that to me too. But the only person who gets to decide what you're capable of is you. He looked around, then at me. "You decided?" "Yeah," I said, and it started on the floor. That night I walked through my quiet home. Hardwood cools under my feet, the scent of fresh linen in the air, the soft sound of water lapping in the backyard pool. I paused at the window, moonlight reflected on the surface of the water, casting light on the ceiling. Gentle, clean, still. I used to think dignity was something others granted, parents, bosses, and he world. But it's not. Dignity is something you claim, inch by inch, boundary by boundary, brick by brick. And while forgiveness may still be far off, peace is not. Peace is here, in this home, in this life, in every choice I made to rebuild what they tried to erase. I don't need their validation. I've already drawn the blueprints for something better. A life I don't have to explain. And that is more than enough. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to fight for your worth when others tried to write you off, hit that like button, drop a comment, and tell us your story. I read every one. And if you believe in rising from the floor to stand tall again, hit subscribe. Because here, we don't just tell stories, we reclaim voices.